Welcome to another biblically based look into today's news from Christian Voice New Zealand. Now here's Mike Bain.
Hi, I'm Mike Bain from Christian Voice New Zealand. You know, the politicians have dubbed the last 2 years as unprecedented times, and you know what? I've got to agree. Never in the history of this country have we ever seen a country run by the most deceitful and dishonest leadership you could ever imagine. You know, interesting reading the media news sites over the weekend how commentators, journalists and anyone else who has an opinion is now turning against the narrative that we, the thinking people, have had to listen to over the past 2 years. Now we can start to see the end of the COVID mandates and separation of people. So how confident can you be in seeing the release of power and control that the government has had over the past 2 years? What really was the pandemic about? Now we can look back. I can honestly say it wasn't about health, it wasn't about science, it was a dress rehearsal for ultimate control. For a long time I've heard people speaking about a one world government and the control that they would have. Well, up until a couple of years ago, this was pure fantasy, I thought, in the minds of the writers. But the pandemic gave those in power the opportunity to trial a shutdown of the world's economy and watch the reaction. You know, their fear-mongering ways outstrip the impact of any Nazi regime, as globally we've seen all countries tested in some way or another. Well, while the world may be starting to awaken, I cannot but think that maybe those conspiracy theorists might have been right. Vaccinations pumped into every human in the world who submitted may come back to haunt us in some way. But the past 2 years it's been about health. But now we're seeing the next step, which is economic recession, which is being coupled with food and supply shortages. Let's throw in a military conflict and watch where those apples fall when it comes to alliances. If you think the last 2 years have been unprecedented, just wait till you see what happens in the next two. You know, we could learn from the pages of the Bible how ancient Israel, before its fall to the Babylonian superpower, had become friendly with its neighbouring countries. You know, they traded, they played, their influences became Israel's, their idols became Israel's, and their gods replaced the God of Israel. That nation looked and felt different, as if they'd become strangers in their own land. But contrast that with New Zealand and the influence of the nations that we're allied to. You know, for some Kiwis it might be that we've become strangers in our own land as well. The lesson is there though in the historical account of Israel for all to see. New Zealand is allied, friendly and reliant on other nations. On one side we're friendly and heavily influenced with the USA, and we're reliant on their protection against adversaries. But on the other hand, we trade and we're relying economically with China. You know, both nations have a huge impact on us. But here's the question. What happens if China suddenly aligns itself with Russia? What happens to a small country like New Zealand? Will we be forced to choose sides? And what is more important to us as a nation? Is it our economic viability or our security? If anything, the last 2 years has given us food for thought. The next 2 years will, however, give us a reality check in the way that New Zealand will be forced to choose. The founding father of the European Union, Paul Henry Spack, noted that nations are ready to give the kingdoms of the world to any one man who will offer us a solution to the world's problems. Control, manipulation, deceit, lies. We're living in some very unprecedented times in which I believe has been contrived by the governments, or if you believe it, those who pull the strings of our leaders. They're locked, loaded and primed for the man the Bible calls the Antichrist. Now friends, we all have decisions to make. It's about the choice of the leader for the world. But to be frank, if you're concerned about your family's future, you need to choose which road you're going to go down. Will it be down the road that the band AC/DC promoted, which was popular and takes no effort? It's called the Highway to Hell. Or are you willing to be joining those who are willing to make that effort that Led Zeppelin mentioned, the Stairway to Heaven? Or if you like a biblical one, Jesus said that we would enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, but many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it, Matthew 7. So I urge you, take the time, make an informed decision today. Grab onto what I know and believe. Grab a copy of the Bible. Grab the opportunity to find out from whom and where your salvation will come from. Israel, was captured by the Babylonians, and during that time, it wasn't great for them. If you think a couple of months of lockdown was hard, then think about how much control a one world government can impose on your life and your future. Psalm 119 says, God's word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path. Before this world becomes too dark, embrace His word. Before the world finds it can't get up.
Thank you for watching. Help us to spread this message by sharing it within your own network. If you want to see more messages like this one, simply hit the subscribe button. For more information about our work, or if you're moved to donate the price of a cup of coffee, jump online to our website, christianvoicenewzealand.com.